The New Britain Common Council, the time is 6 p.m. We begin, as always, with public participation. And I will call speakers up momentarily. The rules of the road are 3 minutes to speak. And we hope to hear from anybody in the audience. So, may I? Sign in for the records, sir. All right, I recognize Frank Chase.
I'll be quick. I finally had a chance to meet Ray here. Frank Chase, 24 Roxbury. I met Ray, and I pretty much gave him my biggest question for the night, which is, when the hell is the job going to get done? No. A little humor there, pals. He mentioned my biggest concern is why isn't the Allen Street project part of the New Britain Flush program? I mean, it just seems a natural fit. The funding seems to be there for some of the New Britain Flush program. It seems to be a big project, but he has related to me other stories about other neighborhoods. So I invite him to visit my neighborhood when we have intense rainfall. It might be educational to see how much water we do get and the mess that occurs around my house and my property. There's no place to put the water. There's so much water. You know, it's ridiculous. So that was pretty much the thrust of my question for this gentleman, and I think he'll be enlightening tonight. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Yes, we look forward to the discussion. Any other speakers? Any other speakers? Ms. Swar? Okay, thank you very much. Any others? Any others? Hearing none, I assume there's none online. I assume there are no comments from my colleagues on the council, or not?
In the interest of time, I'll make no comments.
Grateful for that. Public participation is over. The regular meeting with President Santiago will begin momentarily.
Just go to slides on the slideshow and start at the beginning. Hello, hello, hello. Like this? I actually don't need this thing. I'm from Brooklyn, so. Member of a large family. Thank you. Okay. That's fine. Like I said, it should pick me up. Okay. No, but I could send them to you guys. I believe I did send you a copy, an earlier one. It was a couple of them, probably over a month ago I sent you a copy.
Did you send it to Citizens?
I believe so. Yeah, that's your property, right?
Hey.
It's not going to the beginning. It's all right, just leave it like that. As long as it comes on the board, I can do it with this.
Yeah, Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, March 28th, 2024 special meeting of the Common Council. The time is now 6:05 PM. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderpersons McNamara,
Here?
Smedley, Sanchez, Beloit Saavedra, Simpson,
Present.
Russell, Barbosa, Hargraves, McAdam, Gibson, Scott, Connors, Malinowski, Pabon, Santiago.
Present.
12 present, Mr. Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Clerk, will you please read into the record the warrant?
Mr. Chairman,
Warrant.
I make a motion to waive the reading of the warrant.
Which side? Everyone on this side? We have a motion to waive the reading of the warrant made by Alderwoman Saavedra, seconded by everyone on the right side. No, I'm just, I'm gonna go with Nate Simpson, Alderman Nathan Nathaniel Simpson, or Nathan Simpson. I'm gonna give you different names now, right?
Okay.
Mr. Clerk, you have motion given by
They got to vote.
Okay. Oh. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay.
Motion carried. The reading is waived.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to suspend Rule 9 regarding motions and amendments of the standing rules.
Okay. We got a motion made by Alderwoman Saavedra, seconded by Alderwoman Barbosa. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Say nay. Motion carry. Call.
¿Cómo está?
Thank you. You beat. There you go, sir. The microphone is yours.
Okay, it doesn't seem to be working. It's on the side ones, but it's not on the, oh, it's coming, it's warming up, it's warming up. I'll give you a brief introduction of myself. My name is Ray Espond. I've worked for the city for the last 22-plus years. I started off in the water department when it was a water department, now part of Public Works. About 11 years ago, we got absorbed and combined with the Department of Public Works, and it's been a very interesting 11 years. We were given the task of managing the sewer system, and a few years ago, we were given the task of managing the stormwater system. So that's relatively new to us. My background is I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. I have a master's degree in environmental engineering. I am a registered professional engineer, or a PE, in the state of Connecticut. I also hold a Class 4 water treatment plant operator and Class 3 distribution operator from the state of Connecticut, which are the highest. My other experiences, I worked for the Department of Public Health as a sanitary engineer for 5 years before I came to New Britain. I have been an adjunct professor, as John McNamara knows, at Gateway Community College for the last 16 years, teaching engineering, in particular water treatment and in water utility management. So that's enough about me. There's a lot of stuff here that we're going to talk about today about New Britain Flush. There seems to be a lot of confusion on what New Britain Flush really is, and I'm going to go into that. First of all, New Britain Flush stands for Fresh Line Upgrades for Sanitary Health. The program has expanded to contain 3 components over the last few years. It was originally just going to be a sewer program because we had a federal mandate that we had to take care of with our sewer systems. So as you can see, we have our sewer program and we have our water program, but we also have now new emphasis because of climate change on the stormwater issues that have come in Britain. Mr. Frank Chase is here, and he could tell us about all the stormwater issues that we've had over the last few years. But originally, like I said, we were dealing with our sewer system. Our sewer system is old, needs a lot of TLC. The biggest problem that we had with the sewer system was when it rained in New Britain, we were overwhelming the Mattabassett treatment plant, which is where we send our wastewater. At some days where the rain was so bad, we were sending almost over 100 million gallons of water into that treatment plant. The plant's only designed to handle 90, and we were sending 100 million. So they were forced to open their bypass and send untreated water into the river, the Mattabesett River, which is a violation of the Clean Water Act. So in 2015, we signed a consent order with the EPA to address this issue, and that's what the original purpose of the New Britain Flush was. In the events leading up to that, we had other issues with underground lines. Most recently is the federal mandate to do a lead line survey, and this requires us to go into, well, not into, but to determine what every home in New Britain has for a water service line. The real issue there is to deal with lead, to get the lead out of New Britain, out of our water system. And then finally, the stormwater sewer system, which is a newer problem, which I know people are tired of hearing it, but it is driven by climate change. We've had major storms over the last few years, and our system is old, needs a lot of TLC, and it wasn't designed to take these types of storms. So let's go to the next slide. So here's a quick overview of New Britain. We have a population of approximately 73,000. We have 18,000 service connections. We have 180 miles of gravity sewer mains. 20% of that system is over 100 years old, and some of it goes back to the 1870s. The treatment, again, is sent to the Mattabesett districts, and our flows are supposed to be 22.5 million gallons per day. That's supposed to be the maximum that we can send. And as I told you about, during a Stallman event, we send a lot more than that to the treatment plant. Okay, so in 1996, the city went through a system evaluation and identified 24 basins and 11 sub-basins. And in 1999, a sewer system evaluation study was conducted where they looked at manholes, they did TV, the sewer lines, they talked about isolating some sections of the flow, we did some smoke and dye testing, and then we decided to do some construction. This is in 2008, they completed 6 construction contracts, and there was a slight improvement, but it was not really enough to do. We did a lot of manhole works, we relined some sewers, but we didn't do what I think is the most important part of what we're doing now. A lot of the homes in New Britain have older sewer laterals that are damaged and they're cracked. And when it rains, we get a lot of rainwater going into those sewer laterals. And that's one of our major components. Probably 50%, if not more, of our excess water is coming from those rain events from sewer laterals that we are trying to get fixed. There was an incentive program back then to have these private lines fixed and to remove stormwater. One of the big issues that was discovered back then is that we had a lot of homes that had sump pumps and their stormwater gutters connected directly into the sewer line, and that's illegal. We cannot have that. We are trying to eliminate that as much as we can, and we signed it. Yes. No problem. I should have brought my guitar, I have an audience. No, I'll do some Latin music for you. I'll do some. Hello? I think it's it. Okay? Much better? Okay, as I said earlier, back in 2000 to 2008, there was a program to remove private stormwater lines or stormwater connections to the sewer system. And that did some work, but not enough. Nowhere near enough is what we need, what we discovered. So we did find some work that was done, and this is prior to 2012. They did not increase the flows as expected in the long term, decreased the flows as expected. A lot of it was blamed on limited sector removal, the private sector removal, ineffective rehabilitation process, spot joint repairs, as opposed to doing the complete liners, manholes that weren't sealed properly, number of different things just didn't work. So we had to come back and do some more work. And as you could see, we could see the flows here on the chart. So in 2013, 2014, another sewer system evaluation in certain areas was begun. C9, which is over here, N1, and C7. Okay? We started this by doing building inspections, manhole inspections, smoke testing, dye testing, TV inspection, and again, isolating flows. And we identified the major improvements that were going to be needed for cost-effective. I&I means infiltration and inflow into our sewer system. So the plan came up with C9 and N1, and we did those. That was the first step of the New Britain Flush Program when we dealt with the sewer system. Okay? Prior to this, we had to do this problem. We signed an order with the EPA, this was in 2015, requested a long-term compliance plan to reduce this. We came up with one. Again, Mr. Chase, this is what we were focusing, not on Alice Street. This was a mandate by the federal government that had to be addressed. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So as you can see, we had a consent order with the EPA. Okay, we had to reduce the flows, the wet weather flows, to below 22 million gallons per day. And we had to address the groundwater issues and to reduce the operational costs from Mattabasset. As you know, most of our sewer budget goes to Mattabasset. We're spending almost, approximately $7 million out of $11 million go directly to Mattabasset on our sewer charges. So we've developed the New Britain Flush Plan, and we targeted a $2 million per year capital improvement plan. And we were going to seek additional funding. We realize now we need a lot more money than that to fix this problem. No, $2 million a year is not going to do it. Our next phase is going to be $14 million on its own. That's going to handle a number of areas, and I'll show you what they are. So we prioritized the 15 sub-basins that needed the most work, and we divided them into 5 rehabilitation zones, and we've been implementing a program that's going to go for about 17 years. It's going to be a really long-term issue. We can't overnight fix issues that have been going on for 50, 60 years. We're going to need time to do this, and we have to attack this in the right way. So in 2017, we started sub-basin monitoring. Basically, we put meters in there to monitor the flow, and we could see the difference between what was flowing in a dry day and a rainy day, and the numbers were huge. So C1 and C9 and N1 were done in a previous study, so we were ready to go on that, and we did that. And we did some main work on N1, and then we did some work to the homes in the area of C9. And we continue to monitor throughout the city, we're monitoring our flows. After this, we decided to come up with, we saw the difference between the two, and we saw a 41% reduction in the flows in those areas. Good, not good enough. We really should be getting closer to 50% reduction. It's, like I said, this is great, but we need to do more. Okay, we started looking with Connecticut Deep, and they've been great. They've been funding a lot of our work, especially the planning work. They give us a 55% planning grant, and that's when we go into the homes, we do the inspections, we look at the manholes, we do the smoke testing, we do the dye testing, we look at the flows in the area. They've been funding us, reimbursing us at 55%, and we are continuing to do that every phase of the project. Okay, so they are picking up a big part. What we have to pay for is the construction costs to actually do the repairs that are coming out of this thing. So, in S2 153, that's the one we just finished on the western part of the town, we lined 6,500 feet of sewers. We went into 40 manholes and sealed those up. We're also lining a bunch of laterals, which are private homes, and we're actually going into the sewer system and lining the pipe like we would do a sewer main. Very new technology, has been working out great. Can be a little tough. We need a lot of help from the homeowner to let us do it, but it works out really well. And where anybody in these areas that we contact, we pay for that out of our funding. Okay, so we're beginning to do the monitoring of that area, and we're hoping to get above 50% reduction. We do have some really good positive results so far. I was just informed earlier this year by the Mattabesett District that for the first time in a long time, our flow rates to the sewer plant have dropped. This year's sewer increase bill was only 0.3%, while the other member towns were well above that. 5, 8, 12% the other member towns are paying, while we had a 0.3% because of our flow reduction. So it is paying for us. I am hoping that we can get the system in such good shape that we actually get a reduction in our charges. But it's going to be a long time before we get to that point. We also have some new technology. The water meters that we're using in our drinking water section can also monitor the water use in an area. We can look at the individual meters, and we could see how much water should be going in there and what water is going in there by metering it. The water that's in the sewer system is basically should be coming from the drinking water system. So if I can monitor that and compare what's coming through the sewer system, I could tell if we have groundwater issues, stormwater issues, by comparing it to what the drinking water issue should be. We use about 8.5 to 9 million gallons of water a day, but our flows to Mattabesett could be anywhere between 12 to 16 million on average on a dry day. That means there's a lot of groundwater that's getting into our sewer system, and that's part of our problem also. By relining the issues, getting into the sewer line, we can fix that and reduce that flow. So we got the 55% grant from DEEP to do the study. We have 13 million funded through ARPA grant, and the mayor worked with our congressional delegation and got us another extra $1 million for the third phase, which we're going to put out probably in June of this year, May or June of this year. And we're going to attack 4 areas. We did put out a bid earlier this year, but the pricing was ridiculously high. So we decided to use the economy of scale and put 4 areas in one bid to see if we can get a better price on that. Okay, so we're going to, again, line the sewers, the manholes, line those those sewers in the right-of-way, all those homes that have bad sewer laterals coming into our system. If we can line those and tighten those up, that'll be a great way of reducing our studies. The plans are not complete because, again, we broke this up into 2 sections. We were going to do 1 section and then 3 others, but we combined them to do one bid. Again, trying to get savings on the economy of scale by doing more work, hoping to get a lower price. On the public side, we're going to do about 5,000 feet of 12-inch sewers. We're going to replace about 500 feet of pipe. We're going to do manholes over, and we're going to rehab about 25. We're going to do some new ones, and we're going to rehab some other ones. On the private side, these are the homes, we're going to line approximately 200 homes, their laterals, their sewer lines, okay? We're going to replace about 13 of them, and we're going to remove the inflow to about 20 buildings. You'll be surprised how much water can come through somebody's house in a rainstorm going into our sewer. It can be an enormous amount of water, especially when we get those microbursts and when we get those 3 inches of rain in a day. This is overwhelming our old system. Okay, so here we have phase the first part of it, the first 5 of it. We have all these areas that you can see marked out. And we have, underneath it, we have a matrix that has phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then in the future, the second phase, part 2, we have the other areas that we're going to address. And we have cost estimates for that too. This is a long-term program. This is not going to be overnight. This is going to take us a lot of time to get this done, and we have to have the strength of knowing what we need to do to get this done. This is, again, a long-term project. Sorry, I walked away from the mic again. Okay, so let's talk about the next phase, the water line, service line inventory, and this is about the drinking water system, because again, this is, the utilities division is really 3 utilities. We have the water utility, the sewer utility, and the stormwater utility. So the drinking water utility has been mandated by the federal government, and this is driven by the incident that happened in Flint a few years ago, where lead contamination became so severe that thousands of people got sick. About 5,000 kids have permanent damage to their nervous system. And that's another presentation for another day, but this is what was driving this. Okay, so the background is in 2021, the federal government, the EPA, had revisions to the lead and copper rule, which required us to do a service line inventory of every home in New Britain. So we have to go figure out, we have no records of this. If you have a copper line, if you have a steel line, if you have a brass line, if you have a lead line, I'm supposed to be able to tell the federal government. And this is complicated because we can figure out what's inside the home by seeing what's coming into the meter. And there's another part that's harder, but relatively not too crazy to do. We can go out onto your snow shelf, that strip of land that's between the road and the home, and you have a curb box there, and we can go down there and we have to identify both sides of that curb box, because over the years people have had problems where they replace materials. The hard part is the connection to the sewer main. That would require us to dig up the street. That is something that we are working on, coming up with different methods. In a couple of weeks, you'll be seeing some target areas have been selected where we're sending mailers to people to let us do some water testing on their lines to see if we can use chemistry to identify if they have lead at the beginning of their service line. Okay, so this has to be done by October of this year, October 16th. We are lucky that we're ahead of the game. I thought a lot of people, I've been working on this for about a year now, or over a year, and I thought that we were way behind, but no, we are way ahead of a lot of the communities in Connecticut. I think the only place that's ahead of us right now is New London. They're actually going down and they found a bunch of lead pipe. They're replacing it. To date, we have not found one lead service line in New Britain, but we do have lead goosenecks. This is the connection between the main and the service line, and the rule also states that you have galvanized lines upstream or downstream of lead goosenecks. You have to consider that whole line lead, and we have to replace it. It has to be replaced. We're finding a lot of that. Not as much as I was afraid of, but we are finding it. So right now, the mandate is to do the inventory, not to do the replacement. And we put in for a grant. We're waiting for bonding approval to get that done. We are getting 75% grant from the federal government to do the inventory. The program's going to cost us about $2.5 million. The state drinking water fund has already said they will give us 1.8 as a grant to do that work. And this is, again, just identifying the problem. Dealing with the problem could be upwards of $15 million. Okay, so that's part of the New Britain flush program. As you can see the corrosion inside these pipes, and if they're lead, it can be really problematic. We have never had a lead problem since we had it when we built the new plant. But the chemistry that we've added has created a scale on the inside of pipes that separates the water from the lead in the system. We actually built a physical barrier. So we haven't had an issue with lead for a long time, but even though we have no issues with lead, we have to do this inventory. No, these aren't our pipes, so these were just an example. But you would not be surprised. Remember, it's disinfected. Yeah, we built a new treatment plant in 2004, state-of-the-art, brand-new treatment, and guess what? We took that brand-new water and that new chemistry, and we put it in 100-year-old pipes. And this is what you got. And trying to replace all the pipes in New Britain would be $1 billion. Okay, in 2015, the brief history of Flint, 25% of the homes tested above the lead levels, and there was actually a home that was almost 1,000 times higher than the mandated level. And again, this was a bad problem. A lot of children suffered needlessly because of this. And there was a lot of issues in Flint. Just for my own, to get this off my chest, certified people who are trained to treat drinking water have to be used. Problem would happen with Flint, they used to buy their water from Detroit. There was a mandated takeover of the city finances by the government of Michigan. They put people in there and they decided they were going to save $100 a day by not using corrosion control, and this is what happened. And now that problem is billions of dollars to fix. So they changed their coagulant, they went from a ferric chloride. Oh, the other thing that really, when I found this out, it drove me, they were given an exemption by the State Department of Environmental Quality to not have certified personnel because they hadn't used their water treatment plant in 40 years. They had nobody on staff, and they didn't have people that were certified as water treatment plant operators operating their treatment plant. Anyway, the expense would have been about $36,000 a year, and as you can see, it's going to be a lot more than that. It's nationwide. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. Remember I was describing the situation to you. I'm sorry, I keep on walking away. I think I'm in my class. Okay, so inside the building, we have the building plumbing. Here's the water meter. We can identify this section from here. And typically, it's solid, but doesn't necessarily have to be the case. There are times where you'll have somebody who has done a repair in the past, but they've only replaced half the line. So we're going out here and doing this, and you'll see this. We're actually doing this right now, where we're identifying both sides of this. And then we have to go here, and this is the problem. This is the one that I was telling you, well, we'd have to dig up the street. And if we have to dig up the street, that's going to be very, very expensive. Replacing it, building it, it's going to be really expensive. So we're trying to use chemistry to see if we can identify this portion. This is the gooseneck. As opposed to other cities in the state of Connecticut and throughout the country, the New Britain ordinance going back to the 1850s makes the water service line the owner of that, owned by the property owner. In a lot of towns, you'll have that split where everything from the main to the curb box is owned by the utility, and then from the curb box to the home is owned by the homeowner. But in New Britain, it is different. We have the whole service line. Okay? So we sent out flyers, and we've been doing this for about a year now. These are the flyers, postcards that we sent out, and we explain what we want to do. We have a telephone number, trying to get people there to give us some work. We've got about, I want to say about 2,000 plus people who have responded and told us what's in their basement. And we're using a computer model to use a logarithm to see if we can determine what people have without having to do every home in New Britain. That would be 18,000 homes. That would be a monumental task. If we do our first run and we do a beta test and it's 95% accurate, the state will accept our results. We have to go back there and check it out and make sure that it's okay. So the stormwater challenges, it's the new one. This is the big one. This is directly impacted by climate change. So typically what happens, New Britain's an older city, has a lot of built-up areas, and we have a lot of impervious cover. And basically you can see the difference between pervious cover and impervious. When it rains down, 10% goes off of runoff, 25% goes to the shallow end of the ground, and then 25% goes deep. But if you seal it up with asphalt and concrete and everything else, it has nowhere to go. It goes into the stormwater system, goes off as runoff, carries a bunch of stuff, and that's what we have a lot of. We're an older city, we never thought about this. This rule has been in the books of dealing with this since the 70s. This was part of the Clean Water Act. But everybody was focused on wastewater discharges. Now we're talking about stormwater discharges. This is relatively a new concern for the country. And our mandate is to make sure that that water quality is good, get more groundwater if we can, more of this water into the ground, reduce our impervious surface area. That's part of our MS4 program. That's the Municipal Stormwater System. I can't remember what the last two S's were. It's part of our program. We're again mandated to do this by federal and state laws. We're working with the DEP on that. We have to, matter of fact, we just will be posting our new MS4 report on our website either today or tomorrow. Okay, so we have the MS4. We have changed some of our regulations regarding construction. We have an MPDS permit. That's a National Pollution Discharge Elimination Service. That's what the main focus was after 1972, was doing that, getting that. And now we are focusing on the MS4 part of it. And we are changing some stuff. So we have two types of potential problems. We have the point source, which has to do with the MPDS, and now we have the non-point source, the runoff. And that's where the MS4 is coming through. Again, we have so much impervious cover that we get a lot of flow going into our stormwater system. Our stormwater system was not designed to handle what's occurring today because of climate change. It needs a lot of work. It also needs a lot of TLC. The maintenance on it needs to be upgraded, and that's why the Clean Water Fund was established. The Clean Water Fund is strictly for stormwater. We have the sewer fund, and we have the drinking water fund. Those are the three utilities that we have. Each one's funded separately. Okay? So that's the non-point source. In 2022, that's when we created our third utility to fund the requirements of the mandate by the federal government and the MS4 mandates that we needed to be done to improve our stormwater management. We had to, not only do we have to deal with the flooding, we also have to keep the water quality of the local streams up. We're mandated to do testing every spring, and in the summer we do what's known as wet weather testing and dry weather testing. And you'll be surprised how many homes that we have where their sewer lines are connected to the stormwater system. And you know what goes to sewer, and that winds up in the local brooks. And we are mandated to eliminate those also. Okay, we are also mandated to decrease the amount of impervious surface in the city. We're also trying to control erosion and reduce flooding, which is a big part of this. Our biggest issue in New Britain right now with stormwater is the flooding. Okay, as you can see, we can see what typical flooding is. And this is a tough challenge because climate change has created even larger storm events. You know, these stormwater systems were designed for what was known as a 10-year storm, and we are getting 25-year storms, 50-year storms, multiple times a year. It's just overwhelming the system. It's an old system. It hasn't been maintained to the level it should be, and we need to increase the capacity on that stormwater system. I know I sound like the angel of death, and it's all about the money, but this is the reality of the situation. It's all about the money. All right. Again, flooding was due to inadequate design and infrastructure and minimal maintenance over 100 years. You know, we've had the stormwater in place. We need to do a lot more maintenance. And it's always, especially in the 70s and the 80s, when manufacturers started leaving New Britain, you had to cut services. What did they cut? The stuff under the ground. Nobody looks at it. Nobody cares about it. And now it's coming back to us. We have to take care of this stuff. And this is why New Britain Flush came about and why we have a third utility, to find the funding to do it. And I will say, the utility concept was a great idea, because typically stormwater was handled to taxes through the general fund. And as you all know, we have a large portion of our property tax exempt. So it wasn't fair to the residents to carry the load for people that were tax exempt. Those properties that are tax exempt have to pay the utility charge. So it's much fairer and better off for all the people that we have a third utility. Okay, so what do we need to do? And we're starting to do this, but this is basically in its infancy. We need to upgrade our standards. I am recommending that we go to a standard of a 25-year storm as opposed to the 10-year storm design. Basically, the 25-year storm is the new 10-year storm event, okay? We need to invest in our infrastructure. I will have plans in my mind to do similar work that we're doing with our sewer system. Rehab. We've fixed those sewer lines, those cracked stormwater lines, reline them, reconstruct manholes, reconstruct our catch basins, get bigger catch basins, replace them. I've been working on replacing catch basin probably for the last 5 years. We've got so many of them that are older. And a lot of them were paved over, which creates problems also. Okay, the other thing is we really need to look at our local waterways. That's where the water is going. We have to maintain those so they can take the water. If they back up, guess where that water backs up to? The streets of New Britain. So we need to look at that. We have to look at our open channels, our culverts, our detention basins. Again, we need to upgrade the standards for our 25 and 100-year storms, and we need to invest in maintaining those waterways. We need to get those streams cleared out, dredge them if we can. But again, dredging a stream is awfully expensive. So we're putting that money into our clean water fund, and we're trying to create fund balance so we can attack a lot of the stuff. I will say we are attacking one of the stormwater issues. Work is going to be coming to a head soon on Overlook, which in the past was a big problem, and we are working on that. The Allen Street project, much more complicated because that is a combination sewer and stormwater issue. And the line there is really deep. It's 25 feet deep. And most sewer lines have a slope because things flow downhill. It is flat. So, yes. Well, that is part of the stormwater issues. But Allen Street is not part of the New Britain flush issue. We would talk, especially the sewer components of it, it may be part of this now, but it wasn't really targeted. Allen Street was not part of the issue that we had with the compliance with the EPA. We were trying to eliminate the worst areas that sent massive amounts of water to Mattabesset. Allen Street wasn't one of those. Okay. And I think that's it. So I'll stop right there. And UConn's on, so let's go.
Thank you.
No
Appreciate that
problems.
presentation.
I'm sorry? 7:38.
Now for discussions. Anyone have any questions?
This, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the language you use, I'm unfamiliar with, I'm
Okay.
gonna be honest.
Okay.
So the curb box, even when I was looking at the diagram, I wasn't sure what was.
You want me
meant
to
by-
go show you
by
that
the-
again?
By the curb box. And I'll be honest, I always thought about the flow of water as clean water in and dirty water out. I never thought of it as 3 separate systems. So if you're in a home, you got the pipes bringing clean water in, and I get the sewer system, where's the rainwater going? Where's that storm
Well,
water
it's usually,
system?
well, it should go into the ground unless you have an impervious surface. But a lot of people have connected, and goes back a long time, where they connected their rain gutters into their stormwater piping, into the sanitary
That's what you
sewer.
mean by that, okay, I was
Typically,
confused.
well, if we do find it and there's a stormwater line, we'll reconnect it back into the stormwater line where it should go. But they've been connected to the sewer line for years.
But where's the stormwater line? Like, I'm not understanding.
It's usually in the street. Where you have those catch basins, that's a stormwater line. Those catch basins on the corner, that's a stormwater sewer system. That's a separate sewer system from the sanitary sewer system.
Okay.
The curb box is where you shut off the water to the house if you had to do a repair. And we look at both sides. That's in the middle of the road, so we can go down there with a key, open it up, so if there is an issue in the house, we can shut off the water. okay? Or if we ever did shut off somebody's water for non-payment.
Ooh, just a follow up on, so the flush program, the money that's in there now, that's targeted?
That is
to-
for the first part of the program, the sewers. That's the EPA compliance component that we signed, that we were going to do this, and we are doing it. But the ARPA funding and the $1 million grant that we just got, or almost $1 million grant we got, that's for phase 3 of the sewer issue. That's to deal with the Mattabasset issue.
Okay, so I think just for clarity's sake, because we have these 3 different things, and I think we have been using flush as the catch-all every time there's a problem. Certainly, we were thinking about it in terms of Allen Street. So the money that's coming into flush that we pay, that extra money that we pay on our water bills, right? Don't we pay a,
Clean Water Fund.
Yeah.
That is not going to flush. That's the stormwater program. New Britain flush is coming from the sewer fund.
all right, so flush is from the sewer fund and the clean water.
Well, again, because flush has grown, everything's under new flush, but it's for the sewer portion. Again, each one of those funds will handle each one of those issues. Stormwater money from the Clean Water Fund, drinking water will go to the drinking water issues, the copper and lead inventory, and then the stormwater will come, the sewer fund will cover the sewer costs, like we talked about the first section of the presentation.
All right,
the
so
sewer
I
work.
think it would be interesting for us and informative if you had a slide that talked about the money, the pools of money, so that we understand what pot of money pays for which part of the 3 sections that you do, because often when we're talking about stormwater, we say flush, we say flush, we say flush. We
I know,
don't say
there's been a
clean
lot of
water, we
confusion
don't say
of
the
that.
clean water fund. I've never heard us use the clean water fund when we're discussing stormwater runoff issues.
It was bad verbiage, to tell you the truth. We should have put a stormwater fund. We should have used the stormwater fund, because the state calls the clean water fund sewer fund.
So,
That's a-
so
it's a
if you
different
wouldn't
issue.
mind adding a slide to your presentation that delineates the pots of money, which pot of money goes to which of the 3 different sections,
Mm-hmm.
so that we know when we're asking questions about storm runoff, we don't ask you how much money is left in the flush fund, we ask you how much money's in the clean water fund and where that money's going. I think that has, for me
Mm-hmm.
personally, that's been a source of confusion.
Well, like I said, the acronym, Clean New Britain Flush, basically grew into, because we're dealing with everything underground. It was fixing lines underground for sanitary health. So drinking water lines are underground, sewer lines underground, stormwater lines, and that's why they all got incorporated under that name.
So I'm asking you.
Yeah,
can
we
you
will.
please put a slide together that delineates that? And then it would be nice to know what you've used the Clean Water Fund for so far.
A lot of engineering studies, overlook, other issues, a lot of service line work, paying staff. Part of our staff gets paid, their salaries come out of the Clean Water Fund too.
So I think.
Catch
sorry,
basin
and then I'll stop
replacements.
talking. Because we're very focused on Mr. Chase, because you just bring this issue to, we're focused on all of this that has to do with the healthy water flow and sewer.
You're not more
but-
focused than I am.
Well, of course, and I would never pretend to be, and certainly not nearly as educated. But I would like clarity. I would like clarity. And the information you provided is great, but without asking you these questions, some of it is confusing to me, because I'm
I
not an
understand.
engineer and
I
all of that.
understand.
So yeah, the money piece would be really important, and then any projections into the future on where that Clean Water Act money is going to go in terms of the stormwater problem that we have.
Okay.
And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
Mr. President? Thanks, Ray, it's very helpful, the presentation. I was given a couple of months ago the capital improvement program for Public Works. And I sense the enormity of what you're dealing with. I count 34 projects on your capital improvement program, 9 of which deal with the inflow and infiltration, the EPA, under the road reconstruction and drainage. We have Overlook, we have Allen, and we have the Shuttle Meadow Avenue, 1. And then a series all over the city, about 18 for the pipe replacement. And,
Yeah, well, Those are, we'd like to do that, but again,
That's my point. There is no funding for that, as there is, not all the funding has been identified for Allen Street and other things. I'm gonna direct a lot of the funding questions to the finance department. I've already started asking, so I don't wanna,
Well, these are things that we have to keep in back of our mind always.
Yeah.
I've been here 22 years,
you know,
and I've done a lot of work here. We've replaced every pump station in this town. We've replaced all the water tanks. We built a new treatment plant. We had such an inefficient station on Steel Street. We were paying $3,000 a month on electricity to run those old pumps. By redesigning it, spending some money, we spent about $400,000. Our electrical bills now are less than $300 a month.
And-
The issue of the tanks, we had tanks from 1939 still in service. And like I said, the expensive part, we built a new treatment plant, we got pipes that are over 100 years old, they should be replaced, but they're still functional, but it's gonna be a lot more expensive to rip those up. And which ones do we go for first? That's a tough one. We have to look at that. And we've just been doing so much. We have work on the canals that could be done. I'm working on a dam right now. We have reservoir maintenance. I'm doing forestry. The water department itself was a full-time gig. Now, when you add the sewer and the stormwater, luckily I'm a big guy, I can spread out pretty well. But
well,
it's-
on the Clean Water Fund and the Stormwater Authority, the stormwater is less than 2 years old.
yes, and we're trying to build
New
funds
Britain
for
is the
that.
second community to take advantage of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And when do you expect revenue from the exempt properties and
That's
development?
coming in now.
It is coming in now?
Yeah, everybody's being built. Every property that has impervious service gets built. The residents have a little different from commercial properties, because we're just basing their bill on the square footage of their footprint of their house. While commercial properties, we're billing them for their parking lots and their buildings.
So not on John Q. taxpayer, but those revenues will grow as time goes along.
Yes.
To
we
address
will.
these
But
needs.
we're spending a lot of money. The Overlook project is gonna be basically funded. A lot of it's gonna come out of the Clean Water Fund, but it hasn't grown enough to really handle all of it.
Yeah, I see you've, the Board of Finance approved $300,000 more just from our own general fund revenues for that fund this year, but the millions and millions of dollars you're talking about, we need to come up with grants, funds.
I'm looking
I'm-
everywhere I can, and I gotta give the mayor a lot of credit. I was really shocked when she got me that extra million for the sewer portion.
I've asked you this before, I'm aware the town of Southington got the Army Corps of Engineers to address their specific water problems years ago. Have you heard of any communities obtaining funding through the Army Corps of Engineers for these activities?
They usually work with rivers and streams.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll do dam work, but typically what I'm doing is I'm taking loans, low-interest loans, they give us partial forgiveness of the loan to the State Drinking Water Revolving Fund and to the EPA, and this is where it gets confusing, or the DEP, Clean Water Fund, which is really for sewer when you talk about with the state, but with New Britain, we're talking about stormwater. Okay? And we have to address that. You're right, it is confusing.
But maybe for 10 years, the Allen Street Overlook have been identified on the capital improvement program as needs and problems.
I wasn't, well, it may have been, yes.
And then I'll just ask, can you recall the city issuing any bonds, the city, within the last 6 to 8 years for this issue?
I wouldn't know. I don't really deal with that side of the financial side of it.
That's why I
I'm the
wanted to
engineer.
ask others, yes,
Yeah, you have to ask the finance department on that.
right,
I'm sorry, I'm the technical guy.
right. Professor, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alden Russell?
Thank you, Chair. I got a question as far as stormwater getting into the septic lines. Is that
Septic
a
line, you mean the sewer lines? The sewer
lines,
laterals?
yes. Is that a problem in the city?
Yeah, we have a lot of homes that have illegally connected their stormwater lines into the sewer lines. And again, when it rains, that's why the sewer lines get filled up. Not only the cracks and the broken laterals, but if you're directing water directly from your roof, from your gutters, right into your sewer line, you're gonna create a huge amount of flow. It's gonna increase it and overwhelm the sewer system and overwhelm Mattabasset. So we have to get those separated.
Now, does that happen the opposite way as well?
We have, well, you mean where the sewer line is connected to the storm line? Yeah, that's another issue, but that's another issue where we have to deal with that, because now we're putting sanitary waste into the local streams. And that's a problem too. You don't want to go fishing in a little stream or take your kid into a brook and see toilet paper.
So that ends up at Mattabasset, correct?
No, that's the stormwater line.
Okay.
So it should be going to Mattabasset, but it's going into the local streams and areas. And that's just bad inspection that was done 30, 40 years ago, is when those homes were built, where we might have reversed the lines, where they put the sewer line connected to the stormwater line and the stormwater line to the sewer line.
Now, is this all part of New Britain Flush as well?
It's everything under my purview, but they're different issues, yeah. One's called an illicit discharge, and the other one is basically just a bad connection. There's another term for it, I cannot remember it, excuse me.
Now, what are we doing to correct those problems?
We're going into those homes, when we do part of New Britain Flush, when we do the sewer part of it, we go and do inspect those homes, and when we find where lines are crossed, we repair them. We go out there and we put them into the proper locations. When we find somebody's home and we do the inspection, where we find a stormwater gutter system connected to the sewer line, we disconnect it, and if we can, we'll connect it into the stormwater line if it's available. If not, we'll drain it out to the surface of the house and let it run down the street to a catch basin.
So did that become a cost to us as well?
Is that a cost? Oh,
It
yeah,
is.
oh, absolutely, it is a cost. It's an expensive cost, yes. As you saw, we're gonna do 220 lining, we're proposing 220 linings in the next phase, but it may grow more, because once we go out there, we find more and more of this stuff. And it's not the people who live in the homes now, because usually these homes were done 30 or 40 years ago, and nobody even caught it. And again, as I told you, this rule has been on the books since 1972, and now we're really starting to focus on the stormwater issues more than ever. We were at the first part of when the clean water came out, it was about the point discharges, those MPDS permits that were going out there. We were looking at factories that were illegally polluting wastewater streams. Now we're looking at the runoff, managing the rain that comes over land. And that could be pretty bad water too. If you have a parking lot where you have 1,000 cars and it rains an inch, how much oil and soot and garbage is going to wind up in the stormwater system and go into the local stream? And this is all about sanitary health. This is about the health of the people of New Britain. Keeping our streams clean, getting our sewage where it needs to go without overwhelming it, keeping our drinking water safe from lead contamination. That's what New Britain Flush is. Protecting people's health.
Now, the reservoir, how often do you test the reservoir?
We taste it annually, for different things. There are a bunch of different things that are being tested. We test the water quality for bacteria every month, or every 3 months. We do I spend a lot of money on drinking water testing, because that's the most important one, because people are consuming that. Wastewater, we do test, but what we're looking, and our stormwater system, what we're looking for is to find evidence of sewer lines connected to our stormwater lines. So when we're looking at that, we're looking for fecal bacteria in the stormwater lines. And if we find it, we know that somebody's sewer is connected to that. Now we gotta go back and trace it, because we test out the outflow. That's what's going into the stream. And that means it's connected along that line somewhere, and we gotta go back and find where that illegal connection is.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Alderman Connor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ray.
No problem.
I was wondering, maybe two and a half quick questions. One, is there any way to incorporate permeable surfaces into the city plan if that has not been done already? And
We are
ways to-
working on that. We need to do more, but yes, we are working on that. That's part of the MS4 program, and in our plans, in our report, you can look at that section. It's tough to do that. I've got a lot of different things on my plate, so focusing on one particular area is difficult. I'm the only engineer, I'm the only PE in the the utilities division. So a lot of stuff comes by me. I do have two other superintendents. One of them is an engineer, but he's not a PE, and he's a mechanical engineer. And the other superintendent is a great guy, but doesn't have a college degree, and he's really good with construction and managing. So a lot of this stuff comes directly to me.
Any cities you know of incentivizing that type of thing that would sort of take the burden off of you and, ways to incentivize?
Not that I'm
permeable
aware of.
surfaces?
If you find any, can you let me know?
Sure. My other question was, when stormwater does not infiltrate, when it's going where it should go in the city of New Britain, where is that? Because that's not.
It should go into the ground.
Okay,
It should go into the ground. yeah.
okay.
And there are towns where they have built up so much that you get sinkholes. That's what's been happening in Florida. Or they've removed such groundwater that the ground actually collapses. And if we don't get water back into the ground, we can have subsidence where we have the shift in the ground.
Thank you. And I guess my final question would be understanding that Allen Street's not a part of the consent decree that, created the flush program and wasn't in the minds of the, the EPA drafters and funders. Is there a place where those two issues do intersect and what you're doing might provide best practices or insight or any sort of,
I am hoping that
Impact
the
on
work that
Allen
we're
Street.
doing in the next phase of New Britain Flush is right before we get to the line that goes to Mattabassett, and that's creating a bottleneck. I'm hoping if I can clear that bottleneck, we'll get better flow from Allen Street and alleviate some of the flooding that's on there. The other issues there is the stormwater issues there too. And again, Allen Street is not an easy project. If you look at that, how deep it is, what's going on there, how flat it is a monumental task. 25-foot deep pit throughout the whole length of the street means that pretty much the street's gonna be closed. How are people gonna get in and out of their homes?
it's gravity fed, right?
It is gravity fed, but it's flat, so it's slow flow. And that's why in a storm, it backs up, because there's not a lot of speed coming from gravity.
Thank you.
Alderman Pabon?
Yes, Ray, did you say that sub pumps are illegal?
Not illegal, but if they're connected to the sewer system, they're illegal.
You got sub pumps that have been hooked up years already.
Yeah, and they should be connected to the stormwater system, not to the sewer system.
Yeah. So how are you gonna fix that?
We gotta find them and then connect them to the right
So-
system. Yeah, and we're trying to do the right thing, but getting cooperation from the public. And I wish all of you, as aldermen, could talk to your constituents and tell them that we're trying to do the right thing here for everybody. Because if we don't fix this problem, it's only gonna be worse in the future. It's gonna be worse for the kids, the next generation, and it's gonna cost more money. And it's gonna be a lot more money because the problem's gonna be compounded. So we need to do this now, and now is the time. We have money, there's grants out there. The Infrastructure Act has been a boon to us. We got $14 million from ARPA and a grant. Let's see if we can get work done now. We can always apply for more. There's still money out there. If they can fix a bridge in Baltimore and commit to that in one day, they can commit to helping us over time.
So who will pay for the hookup? For an illegal sub pump now?
Well, if it's in the area right now, we're doing it. If it's in the area we're working on, we're taking care of that.
Well, all right.
But we're not doing it outside of the area, because I've had people call me, well, you did him. I was like, well, yeah, he's in the area, we're not gonna go do you. Yeah.
He's scratching that head like,
Chair, may I ask one more question?
Hold on 1 second. Anyone else?
Just have one
Gibson?
question. You said it was a 17-year process.
That's the plan.
That's
And
the plan.
it may be 25 by the time we're done, It's all about money. I'm sorry about that, but that's just the reality of it.
That was my question. Was there any complex situation that was going to delay that 17-year process?
It's all about finances. If, construction, whenever you go into a project, there's always delays, So it may push it back, some of that, but it's really funding. Funding's gonna be the driving mechanism. If I could do 2 of these phases at once, that would be great, but I don't have $40 million.
Go around real quick. Alderman Simpson?
Hey, Ray. You mentioned that, there are a lot of grants out there and that funding is going to be the main driver behind these projects. I was just wondering, are there grants available now which the city isn't applying for?
I don't know.
Is
We
there
are applying for
capacity
everything that I'm aware of. We are applying for things, but again, I don't mean to say that I'm overworked,
but I've got a lot of different things on my plate, and I can't spend a large portion of my day looking for grants. You know, I'm putting out the fires that are coming with the operational side of it and the long-term planning of 3 utilities.
And then, just with respect to Allen Street, is there a way that the city is able to induce a flow? Because if it's gravity fed and it's flat, it's just,
We're talking about, one of the methods we're looking at is creating a pump station. This is a new idea.
okay,
And it's not an easy one either. It's not a simple fix. In order to have a pump station work, you need a tank, a big tank that has to be built to hold the water. And you need to have 2 tanks because you have stormwater and sewage. And then you need big pumps that are massive to push this stuff out. This is not going to be an easy project. And then you got to connect it 25 feet down to the lines where they're at. And then you got to find the location. And I can go on, but I don't want to be, as the mayor calls me, Chicken Little, but it is what it is. And I told her today, I may be Chicken Little, but I'm not a jive turkey.
right.
So,
The reason I asked that is because instead of having to dig up the entire street, and like you said, how are people gonna get in and out? There's
oh yeah,
traffic issues with that,
and that's
right?
why the idea of the
Yeah.
pump station came up. I was talking
this
with
is
one
my
of our,
opinion.
I was talking with one of our consultants, and we were looking at the enormity of the task, and we're not the primary engineers on this. That's really this Public Works Engineering Division on it. And we started talking, well, it would be great if we had a tank, and we said, pump station. You know, and pump stations I can do. I handle that with water all the time, with drinking water. But this would be a different type of pump station. This is a wastewater pump station, what's known as a forced gravity main. It's going to be very different. And again, we were looking at a stormwater pump station, which is something we don't really have here. We have a couple of minor sewer pump stations, but we've never looked at a stormwater pump station. And this may be the way we have to do this in the future, because if this climate change gets any worse, we are going to have much more problems. Well, you know, it's going to be cyclical. You know, remember in 2015, 2016, when I first took over, we had a drought. We had the worst drought in years. Today, my reservoir levels are about, my reservoir levels were about 96%. And that's rare for this time of year. We're going to have, we have so much water in our reservoirs lately that I've had to release it to keep a safety cap of what they call freeboard, just in case another storm comes, that I can capture that water and it won't go over the dams. I've had to release water that way. And it kind of kills me because I'm a water guy and I don't want to waste that precious resource, but I got to make sure that everybody's safe on the dams. So I've had to release flow on days when it's not raining just to lower the level of the water inside those reservoirs.
In a perfect world, would it be possible to have that sort of overflow you're describing be rerouted to the hypothetical pump stations? Just throwing it out there.
What do you mean? The stuff that I'm releasing from the dams?
Right.
No, that goes directly to streams. They go into streams. And that's good for the fish in the local environment. And that's, in a few years, we're going to be mandated to do that by the Connecticut DEP. We have to do what's going to know stream flow releases. And it's going to have an impact, especially on the years that we have droughts. I'm still going to be mandated to release water from our reservoirs. So it's complicated. It's a very complicated issue.
And then just one last thing, is there a ballpark number of how much of a pump station, or in this case? a
I
pump
couldn't,
station
you know,
would be?
I couldn't really tell you. I wouldn't be surprised if it's over $10 million. Well, easy.
I hear
You know, and you could do it with the streets too. You could put new sewer line in there. But again, that could be well over $10 million. And look up, you get the disturbance that you're going to do to people's lives on that street. That's. But it's not every day. Yeah, I understand. Look, I sympathize with you, but I have choices that I have limited choices, and either one of those things should help you.
Ray,
Yes,
this way.
I'm sorry.
Focus here. Focus here. I know he has this.
He has a magnetism.
No, he
you know?
does, he does. He has. Let's keep it here for a minute. Appreciate, thank you. Anyone else for questions besides me? Go back around again. Oh, Candace Scott. Alderwoman Candace Scott.
Hi, Frank. I just wanted to thank you for.
I'm not Frank. He is.
Oh, I'm saying Frank now, so I'm getting mixed up. See, he is magnetizing. Thank
Yo soy Ramón José de la Cruz Esponda.
I wanted to thank you for providing about the Allen Street project, and I'm glad everybody can hear how much that's gonna be a lot, and we really do need the funding, and we need a plan, because
That's the first thing we need.
how are people gonna get in and out of their homes?
Well, that's why the plan of the pump station came out. you know.
Right, yeah, so we need to really, get moving, I think, as soon as possible. I think that will make Frank and I and everybody that lives over there, really happy to get moving on it. But I know you're working hard on it, and I appreciate that you're putting in the effort to look into it. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. And thank you for coming to the meetings. I do appreciate when Alderman Russell comes, Alderwoman Scott comes to our board meetings. You should all, I invite you all to come to our meetings and see what we talk about. The Board of Water Commissioners deals with only two of these funds, the Drinking Water Fund and the Clean Water Fund, the Stormwater Fund. And I'm going to start addressing it as the Stormwater Fund from now on. And the Sewer Fund is overseen by the Board of Public Works. And Mark Moriarty handles those meetings, and I think they're only quarterly.
Anyone else before I go around again? Give me 1 second before. Go, you make a comment. Go. Microphone. Gotcha.
I'm always yelling at everybody else. I just want to make the comment as far as saying you got to get working on it. I believe we have been working on this.
We are working on it,
quite a
yes.
while. And I believe we're making leeway as far
We
as-
are making some leeway. We are, but it's not something that can be done in a day. And the last major issue that we dealt with was like when we realized that we were going to go down so deep. It's like we have to take a look at the pump station, because that is a huge amount of disturbance in people's lives. If we have to close down a street, and this is not going to be an easy pit to lay a pipe down. It's going to be pretty wide. How are you going to park cars in it? How are you going to get people out of their driveways? It's a difficult issue, and it's a long run. So we're working on it, and we'll never do it in anybody's timetable because the timetables are what they are. We have to face the realities of what they are. All right, so we'll get a plan together. How long is it going to take us to get the funding to do it? So we can have a plan together in a year, 6 months. What are we going to do with the funding? Yeah, it's always the funding. I don't know about that, but I appreciate the candor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
The comment.
Come on.
Compliment.
You heard me. But anyone
Thank
else
you, Chair.
before I go back around to the? All right. I'll do it.
Just quickly, I know that the Allen Street has a $6.7 million estimate now. By the time the engineering study that's about to get underway, I think it'll be more money.
I think it's going to be over 10 million. I can't tell, this is only from what I've been seeing, and prices have increased tremendously since the pandemic, And that's part of the reason that I withdrew the bid for the first part of the third phase. The prices were just too high. And we're facing inflation, and there's a lot of competition to get constructions out there because there's a lot of money out on the street to do jobs. So if you're a company that does excavation, and he's willing to pay you $22 a cubic foot, and I'm willing to pay you 16, where are you gonna go?
And just one more thing I wanted to mention. This may be more in Mark's territory than yours, but I reached out to the Yukon Stormwater Corps, working with 14 communities. The whole issue of, as you say, permeable surfaces, rain gardens, the whole kind of green infrastructure. How far do we have to get in that in a snapshot, do you think, or it's an area it seems we could do a lot
It's a long way
more.
off before we start seeing rain gardens and median strips where we have no pervious surface and do it changing out. That's a long way off. This is an old city. It's not going to change overnight. We have a lot of ground cover, especially in the center of the city. This. One of the reasons I love New Britain is because it reminds me of home. It reminds me of Brooklyn, New York. I walk down the street of Archer just like being home. But that's a big city. Everything's covered, It's concrete, it's sidewalks, it's asphalt. And that stuff keeps the water out of it.
Anyone else before I go around? All right. I'll do it.
I appreciate the candor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else before I go back around to the? All right. I'll do it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. get a chance to ask my questions first? Jeez. Allowed everybody to get a chance, but nah, Francisco just holding the mic, right? Just holding the mic. But it's just a couple of quick questions. One of them is,
They're adjourned.
I haven't moved yet.
Okay.
How
Okay,
long does the lining last in those pipes that you've been doing?
Good lining should last anywhere between 20 and 25 years, if it's done right, and then we got a good product, yeah.
So these are the pipes that you really can't get to, so there's a kind of like
Well,
a-
these are large pipes. How am I gonna, it's a lot cheaper to reline a pipe than it is to dig up the entire street. So they go in there with a machine that sprays this liner around it, and then it goes in with hot steam and cures it in place. And it's structural too, so it gives it support. So you're getting two things. You're rehabbing the pipe and you're relining the pipe.
What is used? What is used for the
It's
lining?
a polyurethane, it's a proprietary method, but it's like a mixture of structural plastic that's heated down there.
And the question that you had got was the new build. How about new builds? Is in the city side, have we done anything to kind of start mandating certain kind of
I believe
materials
we
to
have done
use
some
for
of that
builds?
on the construction side of it, but the building department would be the ones who would have to mandate the new standards for building of impervious structure, mandating pervious structures and things like that. That's not my purview, sorry.
Well,
So-
because another one was because Osgood, which I appreciate getting done over, absolutely. But my neighbors right now have a swimming pool in his basement because of the way the track and everything that was done over. And again, it's not towards the city or anything like that. It was just what happened was that sewers weren't inspected yet, so they were covered. So when the snow and the rain came, just pretty much washed right into the neighbor's yard, which was sad. Yeah, they weren't put in yet. Well, and me working in the pool business, I know what 25 feet looks like. I've done 15, and that's pretty deep. So 25 is like, and it's scary. It's scary down there.
Imagine that, getting up, going to work on a sewer pipe on Allen Street that's 25 feet down.
That's absurd. I don't even know why they built that in the first place. I was going to ask, my question was you can't build another one on top?
You need the slope, you need to have the depth.
No,
You need to
again,
have-
if you're going 25, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure if
but
you
you
went
can't build it on
15.
top because it's not gonna flow down to the pipe that we need. It's gonna be too high, you have to go down.
How far, you're saying that the whole lead is 25?
25 feet deep, well, it doesn't slope, but the ground changes, but the pipe is flat.
Yep,
So the ground can look like this, but the pipe is going straight.
correct. So there's some point you're going to meet.
You're gonna meet at the end,
Yep. So that's what I'm
but
saying.
that has to go down.
So what I'm saying is you're going 25. You went 20. Say if you, okay, again, you're saying slope, right? So if you
But it
went-
has to, it won't flow uphill. It has to be because if I make it higher, it's not gonna flow up there, it's just gonna back up. It has
So
to
you're
go
saying it's
above it.
going up already? It's not
No, it's going down, it's
Okay.
going flat, but if I make it higher, the water would have to flow uphill, and that's an impossibility unless I
No,
pump it.
I understand that part. Again, that's where we were talking about the pumps.
Yep.
That's we have to force it up, so that way it's kind of, I'm just asking, because again, if you were saying you're going up a hill, you went, say, 15 feet, and then went down, but you're saying because of this, by the time it gets up to the top, it's gonna pretty much be.
It won't get up to the top, well, it'll get up there, but you're gonna back everything up behind it until it gets to that point where it releases. And that means that all the water behind it is gonna be at least that high. Yeah. It's not gonna go down. You have to, everything has to flow
Trust
in
me,
a downward
water finance
direction.
is easy.
You know what flows downhill, right?
Exactly.
Water.
And now we're talking about money. Of course, everything is money. What so far that has been the state and federal government has been offering now for these?
Well, we got the
kind
14 million, the $13 million from ARPA, and we got $1 million grant. We're potentially getting a huge amount of work on the drinking water side. We're getting 75% of the study covered. And if I have to replace lines and I get the loan approved from them, they will pay 75% of the cost to change those lines out if we have to change them out. So we have a placeholder in place. I had to put a number in it. I put 15 million to hold the place. It may be more, maybe less, but I had to come up with something because I didn't want to give our space and line up. I wanted to be there. And usually I'm first, second, third on these lists. Even though we're not ready, we're online. About the
So
slope?
No, not that, the money piece. So, because on one hand, you're saying there's money, there's grants, and then on another hand, you're saying it costs so much money, there's not. So just to make this clear, the grants and the money you have are for either the sewer lines, and that work specifically, or our water, our drinking water lines. But do we have any grants that we're applying for or that's available specific to storm water?
We got a stormwater grant to do a study, but we haven't utilized it yet. And it's not really in any of the areas that where we want to do. Mark's been involved in that one, but it's something that we want to create like a flood zone. And we were granted, I think it was $300,000, I don't remember the exact, but we haven't moved on that one yet. And because we've been focusing more on the day-to-day issues, the ones that are really hurting the people, you know.
So it
overlooking
appears that then the money coming into the system is really for 2 out of the 3
Right
pieces
now.
under your umbrella, so to
That
speak.
right now, but again, we're trying to, I gotta really figure out the scope of this and come up with the plans and see where the money's coming from before I can even ask for money, or when it comes to the stormwater stuff. We're trying to build up the clean water funding so we can do the advanced work that we need, so we can go to a project. When I go for a grant or a loan on a project like this, I need to be ready to say, this is what we wanna do. So I need the money to get that stuff done before I can ask for the loans.
The question, thank you. The storm system, that's really just, there really isn't no storm system, right?
There is a storm system, it's
Is there?
sewers, it's separate sewers. You have a stormwater line and you have a sewer line. They're 2 separate systems.
Where would you locate that in the house? That's the problem, because I think to me.
You
it's
look at the
one line.
gutters, and there's usually some sort of piping that's coming in from the gutter line, and it's either connected into the basement, into the stormwater line that runs into the basement. There's usually a gutter drain, or a French curtain drain, or something like that that's connected to the stormwater line. A lot of times, they didn't do that, they connected it right to the same sewer line where the wastewater goes. And so we have to, and that's when we do a smoke test. We blow smoke into the sewer line, and it comes up somebody's stacks of their drain, and we know that's a bad connection. That's how we identify them with smoke. If you get people's basements covered with, filled with smoke, they have an illegal connection.
All right. No, because I'm like, I only see one pipe that's coming up from the house, so like, I'm like, where's
Okay, we'll
this
go
other
inspect yours.
one? Well, I don't have, I am not gonna say it out in existence. No, not even that. I'm not even gonna do that.
Again.
I've been okay.
We're not here, we're trying to help. We're trying to
Yeah,
make the situation better.
absolutely.
We are doing more in this city now. I've been here 22 years, and I am doing more in the last 5 years of my career than I did in the previous 17. We are taking giant leaps. We are addressing things that nobody wanted to address. Nobody wants to look underground. It's not sexy. It's not a photo op. This stuff needs to get done, and we're doing it. I'm sorry.
No, that's passion. That's passion for you. You know, that's what we want. We're leading, right? Passion. That's it. So again, at this moment in time, anyone else has any questions or any? Thank you, Ray Esponda.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time and your questions. And
Now, can I have the
again,
motion for adjournment?
Well, some of us may follow up with email questions based on that.
okay, and
So I have a
forgive me
motion
if I don't
from
get to you
Russell,
right away.
second from everybody.
Thank you, Ray.
The time is now 7:24.
I hope so too. Nice. Appreciate you. Thank you.